Using a switch statement to create a menu system. I want to walk you through on how you can use a switch statement to create a menu system for your program. So what I've done is set up a sample program here that has three sample functions here. So if we look here, we have function 1, function 2, and function 3. And remember that your functions can be as long as they need to be. And the most important thing on this is to remember about functions is you always want to label your functions as to what they do. So let's move farther down into our code. Now if we look right here, I've got a function that I've designated and called menu. So this is where we're actually going to show our menu to our user. So basically our menu is going to show please enter a choice, and they have A function 1, B function 2, C function 3. So here's our A, B, and C. And you'll notice I'm using the escape code of /n to drop those all on a new line. Let's move farther down into our code. I want to talk to you real quick here about our variables. So I've got two variables that we're going to use here. We have char for a choice, and then we have string for input. Okay, so we're going to read our keyboard information into input, and then we'll eventually convert that input into a char and save it into a choice. So the next part of our program here is menu, so we're going to call the menu, display it to the users. We've got a scanner created here to get the input from the keyboard. We're going to read the information from the keyboard as a string and store it into input. Now here's a neat function right here. It's called toLowerCase. So input is a string, okay, and string is a class, and they have all these neat little functions attached to it. And one of those functions is called toLowerCase. And what this does, if the user entered a capital A, it converts it to a lower a. And if it's a lower a, it will still convert it to a lower a. And then we'll store that input back into the string variable. They also have one called the toUpperCase. So you can flip everything to uppercase or to lowercase. Now, this next part here is where we're actually going to take that string and convert it into a char. So I want to show you this right here. And this is the next step that we're going to look at, is where we're going to convert it to a char. So once again, input is a string. It has some functions attached to it, and one of them is called char at. And then we have here 0. And 0 is referencing a position. So for instance, if our user entered the word dog, okay, the first position of those characters, we've got 3 positions, and the first position is 0, the second position is 1, the third position is 2. So we're always counting our first position at 0. Now since our user only has the choice between A, B, and C, so if they entered A, there's only one position on that, and that's still position 0. So what we're basically is saying, take whatever position 0 is, pull it out, create a char for that, and store it as a char into a choice. So that's how we're converting our string to a char. Let's look farther down into our code. So what we're going to use next is a switch statement. So we're going to use the command of switch. So that's right here. We're going to use our command of switch. And we're going to use our char variable right here. Now, the values for char were A, B, and C. So we're actually going to put those here, here, and here. Okay? And they're going to be preceded by the word case, and then followed by a colon. Okay, so it's going to be case char A, case char B, case char C, all followed by colons. So if they chose case A, we're going to call the first function. Now realize once again, the space in between here, we can have as many lines of code as we need, but when we're done with this section of code, we have to use a break statement. And it's important that we put the break statements for every case statement that we have. Now I want to point out here one more thing here. We have a thing called default. Okay, so if our users chose B, it's going to come down here, do B, do all the lines of code, call that function, do what it needs to. It'll break out of the braces onto the next line of code. So the break is breaking us out of the braces. But if our user, okay, entered the value of F, F is not A, B, or C, so then it'll come down and hit default. So if it didn't do any of our previous cases, it will do the default, and our default message is that wasn't a choice. So that's how we can use a switch statement to create a menu system. I'd like to point out one other thing on here. Okay, this variable type here was a char. Okay, we can also use ints. Okay, and we can also use strings. So we're just not limited to the char value. We can use ints and strings. You cannot use floats or doubles or booleans on that. So you must use char, int, or strings. So that's how you can use a switch statement to set up your menu system for your programs.